your time, guys. And congratulations from the film I've seen so far. It looks fantastic. I guess, first question for you, Seth, is you explained a little bit yesterday at the Q&A how you combined, or why you combined Abraham Lincoln and vampires. But why the mashups? Why have you, what's the fascination with combining things?
I've become the accidental mashup author. You know, I grew up loving fantasy and science fiction and horror. I love genre. And love genre movies, and always have. And, you know, Pride and Prejudice and Zombies just sort of changed everything for me and put me on a trajectory of sort of being a mashup guy. And that's very interesting to me. And I love doing these books, but I'm not sure that I would do them forever because at some point you just become a parody of yourself, you know. I think that what a lot of people miss with mashups is that it's not just arbitrary. It's not just about throwing a dart at the wall and finding the two most dissimilar things you can put together. There has to be an emotional, thematic reason behind it, and there also has to be a real character-based story to make the books work. You know, so I don't think of myself as a mashup writer. I think of myself as a writer who, you know, has written a few mashups and is now, you know, thinking about doing some other things.
And have you got any sort of flack from people who felt that taking Abraham Lincoln's name in vain?
I mean, not really. The strange thing is we've been endorsed by some of the most, you know, celebrated Lincoln scholars, and I mean, we were invited to the for God's sakes,
the
we were
Lincoln Museum to release the trailer. I mean, I don't know who can endorse you that's more knowledgeable about Lincoln than that.
Yeah, I mean, the keepers of the Lincoln flame, the protectors of the legend have embraced us and embraced, quite frankly, this book and this film. Because they think, you know, and I think rightly so, that it's ultimately respectful to his legend, and it's ultimately something that brings that legend to a new group of people.
And Ben, on that note, when you come into a character like Abraham Lincoln, how much preparation did you have to do, and what kind of sources did you go to get that character?
Well, there's a lot of reading you can do, and yeah, well, you know, and a lot of research that he did on that book. But some of it isn't necessarily helpful in terms of the story we're telling. Like, for example, Team of Rivals is a great book about Lincoln, but maybe not helpful because it's largely about his politics in the White House. But you look at a book like Lincoln's Melancholy, which is about how he dealt with misery and death, and that lends itself nicely to the story we're telling. So it's largely about doing research that helps you tell your story.
And was there a magical moment where you felt that I'm Abraham Lincoln?
There were a few moments where it was remarkable to say Lincoln's words. I never lost myself in Lincoln, but it was remarkable and an honor as an American and as a lover of Abraham Lincoln to do the Gettysburg Address.
Seth, one of the things that you've got coming up on your plate is, of course, Beetlejuice 2, which I believe you've written or are going to write something for. Now, when you're coming to a character like that, that's already established, much like some of the characters you've already dealt with, how do you approach somebody else's...
Reverentially, you know, first and foremost, you decide you're not going to be the guy to screw it up. And to that end, you know, I've sat down with Michael Keaton, I've sat down with Tim, I've talked about it, and we all agree. And by the way, right now, it's just a matter of waiting for me to crack some kind of story that everybody's excited about. Nobody wants to do it if we're just doing it to cash in on it. It's got to make sense. And so we'll see. We'll see. If you never hear of us doing it, it's because we couldn't do it right.
It's good to hear. And Ben, with your next role, I believe, the next thing we'll see you in is another historical figure. In Muhammad Ali's Greatest Fight.
Right.
As again, with that character, how do you approach a character who's very much in living memory?
Yeah. Well, you research. I mean, that's where every actor should start, which is the understanding of who these people are or were, and how their lives existed at that time, and how you can make that real for yourself.
And Seth, speaking, I've mentioned Courting Controversy before. Your next book that's coming out is The Unholy
Night.
Unholy Night.
Yeah.
So going back to biblical characters, do you? What was your impetus for that book?
Just a question. An itch that I could not scratch. The question was, what were the three wise men doing there that night? But you know, I never set out with Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, for instance. You know, there's some you have to bring a certain reverence to that. And what I do, no matter what I'm writing about, is I bring a certain reverence and respect for the original, whether it's Jane Austen, whether it's Abraham Lincoln, whether it's the Bible. You have to respect it. And I think that, one of the things that I love about this film and the adaptation is the fact that everybody involved really brought that respect for the original ideals of Lincoln to bear. We say it and we mean it. The joke ends with the title, and everything after the ridiculousness of the title is our best effort to get it right.
And now that you've seen that thing come to life, was it everything you mentioned in your mindset?
Yeah, I mean, it's in some ways it's more. It's in a lot of ways it's very different from the book, and it should be. It's a big summer action movie that just happens to have a lot of great history and a lot of great performances and a lot of scary vampires in it. And seeing it in 3D and seeing the finished product, it's I don't know how you felt.
And Timur's vision, because his imagination is so wild. There are just things in the process of making it that you can't imagine how they're going to come together. And as an editor and as a cinematographer, he is unparalleled.
Fantastic. Ben and Seth, thank you so much for your
Great.
time.